Daniel, a gifted but disturbed musician, resided in the middle of the city, where the din of everyday life felt unavoidable. His violin talents were legendary, and he was noted for his striking good looks and deep black hair. His calm appearance belied the depths of depravity that were known to those who knew him well. Daniel was looking for ideas one night when he came upon a worn piece of music among a stack of neglected items in the attic. The notes were written in a beautiful old style, and the pages were yellowed from age. The sheet looked as though time hadn't affected it at all. Daniel, intrigued by the unusual object, brushed it off and inspected it closely. Notation that seemed to dance over the page lacked a title or composer's name. The sound beckoned to him, promising a world of incredible splendor and might. Daniel gave in to the temptation and put his violin up to his chin. There was a chill in the air as the first ominous notes echoed through the attic. The music from his instrument was so ethereal that it made the outside world fade away. The melody became more entrancing with each bow, and Daniel could feel a strange power flowing through him. The song seemed to give him life, imbuing his playing with an otherworldly brilliance. Daniel had been feeling elated until the final eerie note reverberated through the attic, but now he was overcome with fear. The candles that had been lighting the room so gently went out when a gust of cold air blew through. Daniel sensed a menacing and vindictive entity lurking in the night. As he turned, he saw a ghostly form emerge from the darkness, its eyes blazing with fury and reproach. A ghost haunted this cursed piece of music that Daniel had performed to call it forth. "You have awakened us," the spirit cried out, its voice a sorrowful hiss. "With your actions, you have awakened the echoes of a composer's darkest sins." Daniel, frightened and confused, could only watch as more ghosts emerged all around him, their ghostly bodies writhing in pain. His eerie composition served as a portal to a world populated by angry spirits seeking revenge for his sins. The leading spirit's face was contorted in pain as it aimed a finger of accusation at Daniel, demanding, "You must help us find the composer, the one responsible for our torment." The message begged for assistance in identifying the source of their suffering. As the saying goes, only then can we find redemption and release from this eternal suffering. Daniel, his heart racing, knew that he had woven a dark song of his own creation, one that had attracted the attention of angry ghosts bent on vengeance. He had to go on a perilous quest to find out what was behind the haunting music and face the composer's sinister acts. In this way, the eerie tunes had woven their dissonant symphony, setting in motion a story of supernatural terror and relentless pursuit, a story that would alter Daniel's life irrevocably and plunge him into a world of the supernatural, where the line between music and evil was porous at best. Daniel was profoundly unnerved by his experience with the vengeful ghosts. Night after night, the tortured spirits he had unknowingly called stared at him from the memories of that terrible attic performance. He realized he couldn't ignore them pleading forever and instead had to investigate the origins of the composition's curse in order to save them from an eternity of torment. Daniel, dogged in his pursuit of the truth, dove headfirst into his investigation of where the mysterious sheet music he'd found in the attic had come from. His research into archives, libraries, and antique texts took hours, then days, then weeks. The unidentified piece of music had become an obsession, a foreboding tune that kept playing over and over in his head. The name of Eric de Valère, a famous composer from centuries ago, sent a shudder down Daniel's spine when he read it one chilly moonlight night in the city's oldest library. Eric's concerto, which was banned and surrounded by rumors of evil and insanity, was mentioned in passing in the manuscript. Daniel's pulse quickened as he learned more about Eric's mysterious background. His music was believed to have held an unpleasant undertone, as if it were a mirror of the composer's own inner demons, but he was a genius of unequaled brilliance. Many people thought Eric's compositions were cursed because of the widespread belief that he was involved in sinister rituals and unholy pacts. Daniel's insatiable curiosity in Eric's past eventually led him to the dilapidated estate on the outskirts of town. The once grand home was now in ruins, its walls overgrown with ivy and its windows broken. Daniel entered and found Eric's secret chamber, a shadowy haven adorned with musical scores, instruments, and a disturbing image of the composer. A ghostly presence pervaded the space like it was a safe haven. Daniel located the missing piece among the strewn manuscripts, an old, worn sheet of music with the same complex notes as the one he had found in the attic. It was the symphony that had been spoken of in hushed tones for centuries, the one that had been banned. As Daniel started playing the prohibited concerto on his violin, a dark aura filled the room. The mansion's walls appeared alive, as if they might reveal the inner workings of Eric's troubled mind. It was as if the composer's ghost had crossed space and time to speak to Daniel via the music, and with each eerie note, Daniel felt a connection to Eric's sorrow and misery. The allegation leveled by the enraged spirits was echoed in the concerto's narrative of forbidden knowledge, unholy pacts, and a spiral into madness. But as the final note died away, Daniel understood he had accidentally called up more than simply Eric's troubled background. The ghosts he had seen in the attic materialized in the room as the concerto played, their eyes pleading with desperation for freedom. "You have found the truth," the leading spirit said somberly. "But to lift the curse, you must face the evil that engulfed Eric de Valera." After realizing that he had become entangled in the misdeeds of a long-dead composer and the malicious powers that had connected them together across time, Daniel set out on a relentless search for forgiveness and justice. As Daniel set out on a risky mission to discover Eric de Valera's evil secrets and put a stop to the spell that had entangled them all, the eerie melodies continued to play, weaving a dissonant symphony of the past and the present. Daniel dug further into the mystery of Eric de Valera, the composer whose cursed concerto had entangled him in a web of terrible supernatural powers in his search for answers. Now that he knew why Eric had such a bad record, he was more motivated than ever to learn the truth about the ghostly tunes and angry ghosts. Daniel went to the famous music historian Dr. Amelia Blackwood for advice, since she is an authority on the composer's esoteric past, and Daniel is tenacious in his search of knowledge. Daniel thought that Dr. Blackwood, known for investigating obscure parts of music's past, might be able to help him unravel the mystery surrounding Eric's existence. Dr. Blackwood's study was illuminated only by a few lamps, and its shelves were stacked with ancient books that told stories of forbidden music and cursed tunes. Dr. Blackwood's eyes glowed with a mix of curiosity and anxiety as he recounted Daniel's unnerving encounters with the malevolent spirits and his discovery of the forbidden symphony. She traced her fingers over the complex lines of a centuries-old sheet and thought, "Many believe that Eric de Valera's music held a power beyond the ordinary. Some say he made a deal with the devil to make his music sound better, and in exchange his songs became a vehicle for the devil's evil." As Daniel listened to what Dr. Blackwood had to say, his body went into shock. The evil spirits Eric had encountered seemed to have been released because of Eric's preoccupation with reaching musical greatness, which had led him down a road of forbidden knowledge and unholy contracts. Dr. Blackwood elaborated, saying that it was possible that the ghosts you saw were the souls of those who had fallen victim to Eric's ravenous desire and were now locked in a circle of misery and seeking vengeance. Daniel, motivated by his feeling of duty and his growing empathy for the spirit's situation, dove deeper into Eric's history, unearthing pieces of the composer's life that hinted at the ominous nature of his music. He discovered letters and journals that described Eric's journey into lunacy and revealed details about mysterious rites and incantations. But as Daniel dug more into his studies, so grew his anxiety. The evil powers linked to Eric de Valera seemed to be closing in on him, and he couldn't escape the sense that he was being watched. Night after night, he heard ghostly voices, and his violin appeared to carry the spirits of the dead. The unnatural coolness permeated the apartment one night as he played the prohibited symphony in the wan light. The walls began to sway with shifting shadows, and then he saw Eric de Valera's enraged ghost standing before him. As he spoke to Daniel, Eric's eyes were full of sadness and accusation. When he said, "You seek the truth," his voice was like an eerie reverberation. However, the reality has the potential to swallow you, as it did me. An unsettling realization that would require Daniel to face the dark forces waiting in the shadows was on the horizon, and Daniel knew it. Only by discovering the deepest mysteries of Eric's history could he hope to break the curse and put a stop to the haunting melodies that had tied them all, as the furious spirits sought retribution. Thus, with every bar of the taboo concerto, Daniel dug further into the composer's dark history, intent on discovering the answers that would free him and the angry ghosts from the concerto's unrelenting chorus of malice and despair. The line separating our world from the hereafter became increasingly blurry as Daniel dug deeper into the mysteries of the cursed symphony and the evil spirits. The songs that had once captivated him now rang with a sinister undertone, beckoning the souls of the damned who desired vengeance. Daniel felt the weight of the evil powers weighing down on him as he was haunted by the ghost of Eric de Valère, the tortured composer. To break the curse and free their restless souls, the spirits had made it obvious that Eric had to face the darkness that engulfed his soul. Daniel's communion with the dead became stronger with the passage of time. In the still of the night, he could hear their sobbing voices, and in the morning, their ghostly apparitions would stand before him, begging for redress. Time was running short, and he could see the agony on their spectral faces. Daniel's dogged determination led him to a secret chamber in Eric's dilapidated house, where the composer's deepest, darkest secrets were kept. The chamber was bathed in a ghostly half-light, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath in anticipation of finally revealing their long-guarded secrets. Daniel discovered a diary in the room full of occult objects and prohibited texts, detailing Eric's spiral into madness and his unholy pacts with terrible creatures. The diary's descriptions of satanic rites, occult symbols, and the composer's terrifying admission that he had a cursed violin were enough to make anybody shiver. Daniel reached into the dusty velvet case and with shaking fingers pulled out the violin. The strings seemed like they were woven from darkness itself, and the black wood seemed to soak up any illumination that came their way. He had faith that this enchanted object held the truth that would either lift the curse or destroy him. The moment he put the jinxed instrument up to his chin and started to play, a radical change came over him. The walls appeared to close in on themselves, and the space throbbed with a strange force, as if the chamber were alive and bearing witness to the impending reckoning. The violin's eerie tones were a lament for all the lost souls Eric had snared. They were a symphony of misery and sorrow. Daniel felt like he was in the eye of a storm as the music intensified, its notes resonating with a mystical force. There was no longer any separation between the natural world and the supernatural after that. Daniel was confronted by the ghost of Eric de Valère, whose specter writhed in pain. The composer looked directly into his eyes, pleading for forgiveness. Eric's voice trailed off into a somber reverberation as he mumbled, "You have uncovered the truth. You must break this spell on me now." However, Daniel was aware that redemption would require giving something up. The evil spirits that had imprisoned Eric in the underworld were drained of their strength as he played the violin of doom, freeing Eric at last. The chamber shook with magical force, and the ghosts of the enraged souls with their pained expressions began to dissipate into the haze. One by one they were freed, their agonized screams transformed into hushed expressions of appreciation as they vanished into the night. Eric de Valère's ghostly figure faded as the final eerie note of the doomed concerto reverberated through the chamber, and a profound calm settled over his eyes. He said softly, "Thank you," and his words disappeared into thin air. There was a sudden eerie silence as the dark energies that had bonded them all began to fade away like shadows before a rising sun. With the shattering of the curse and the release of the vengeful spirits, Daniel had completed his mission as a conduit of salvation. He felt an overwhelming feeling of relief as he put down the jinxed violin. The strange powers that had previously captured him and the eerie music that had haunted his existence were now only a distant memory. But as he looked around the now empty chamber, he couldn't help but wonder if the evil energies had been completely extinguished, or if the shadows cast by Eric de Valère's legacy would remain, a spectral echo of the otherworldly music that had killed them all. With the cursed violin finally put to rest, Daniel departed the dilapidated home, permanently transformed by his ordeal in the worlds of music and evil, which had tested his mettle and brought him to the edge of an extraterrestrial reckoning.